In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Daily Memphian Tigers podcast. I'm Frank Bonner, your Tigers football beat writer, and I'm joined by our columnist, John Martin. John, we've got some bowl game talk to get into, but first, don't forget to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. You can listen to these episodes anywhere you get your podcast coverage. And also, don't forget to check out our stuff at dailymemphian.com, and you can also hear the podcast over there, too. So, John, last week we talked about signing day and everything, but now you've got the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl coming up on December 17th against another Power 5 school or Power Conference school, whatever it is now. Now, last year, the Iowa State win in the Liberty Bowl was a massive deal. I think it kind of carried Memphis into the offseason in terms of the excitement and everything. How would you say this bowl game, if they win it, would do for the fan base? I don't think it's going to be as big as last year, but it still would be like an 11th win and all that. Where would you rank a win over a West Virginia team that's 6-6 in the Frisco Bowl versus last year's Liberty Bowl win?
Yeah, I would say it's really not very comparable. I would actually have it under the Tulane win. If Memphis, I think the Tulane win was far more important than this one would be, just because it's just one of those bowl games, right? Like, it's just one of those bowl games where the other team probably doesn't want to be there that much. They don't have a coach. They will have one at some point, but he won't be coaching that game.
They've got guys who are already into the portal.
Right, and they will probably have more. There's a couple of rumors about some opt-outs, their tight end, a couple of offensive linemen, so I'm not really sure what, if any, motivation there is for them in this one. They're a 6-6 football team. They're not very good. And Memphis, on the other hand, is like supremely motivated in this game. Seth's last game, Rock's last game, Mario Anderson Jr.'s last game, a couple guys on defense's last game, right? Would this be Greg Rubin's last game?
Yeah, because he came in same with Seth.
Greg Rubin's last game. So you just have Kobe Minor. You just have so many different guys that this is their last chance to go out on a dub. So it's going to mean a lot more to Memphis than it's going to mean to West Virginia. We see this a lot, and especially at the Power 5 level. When they get in these bowl games and they play like a group of 5, they just don't care. They just lay down and just doesn't matter. So I don't think it would. I know it would mean a lot to you. I think it would mean a lot to Frank Bonner for sure.
Would it?
Chronicling the 11th win. How many times has Memphis won 11 games?
Once was the
2019. Yeah, this would be different because you didn't win a conference championship. Right. Although I know that it would be sold to us as though it is the same. Not by you, but
I was going to say,
not by you, I know. But I'm just saying it would be. We won 11 games twice in program history. Oh yeah, all 11 win seasons are not created equally, my friend. It would be, I guess, nice from a sentimental standpoint to send Seth and all those guys out on a dub, but would it mean anything? Like, would it, because you're right, the Iowa State win did. The Iowa State win did serve as a real punctuation. I don't remember Iowa State having any opt-outs, so to speak, right? I don't think they really had a ton of those. So,
because they were excited. They weren't upset about being there, right? They took it as seriously as
their
Memphis
fans
did.
traveled.
Yeah.
So that's the key, right? Nobody's traveling for West Virginia. I've been on West Virginia message boards just to kind of get like a sense of like how they're feeling. And they're like, are we playing in a bowl? Like they don't even care. They're making like weed jokes about bowls and stuff. So, that's just where their mindset is. They don't care about this. I don't think their coaching staff is skeletal probably at this point. So I just don't think this one will have a great deal of significance if they win.
It does put Memphis in a situation where like you can't drop this game.
Oh, if you
like
lose this game, it's a bad look. Yeah.
Yeah, like a win would be whatever, but a loss would be like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And so like now you're going against like you said, a power conference team that isn't all that invested. You have to get it done. I don't think that they'll drop it. Like I do think Memphis will win this game.
Yeah.
But you're in a situation where it's almost like the Florida State deal.
Yeah.
Where you can't lose it.
No, I agree. I mean, it'd be like, damn, man. I mean, that's any halfway decent team you played this year other than Tulane you lost to, that would not be Silverfield's going to be ready for this one. He knows. So
speaking of Silverfield and Tulane, he had some very spirited comments, and this is a couple weeks after Jonah Gamble. Like he said he hates them. I mean, is the bad blood between Memphis and Tulane really that deep? I didn't think it was.
Frank, it must be, Frank. I mean, you're in there every day, so I mean, they paint the walls with Tulane's blood or what? I mean, that was just out of kind of nowhere. Now, my radio partner said he didn't really feel the fire. He heard it, but he didn't feel the fire. I mean, I thought it was very uncharacteristic of Silverfield on his radio. I'm like, damn, man, like, what did Tulane do? Like,
I think part of it, though, is, because Jonah Gamble has the same sentiment, right? He said it was the home and home, where, like, they could never win at home and so on. And the other part, I think, that nobody's saying is because these last couple of years, Tulane is what Memphis was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if there's some of that Tulane kind of took your spot.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of helped them. I mean, you let them do it. They came in here and won last year. I mean, don't hate them because you ain't them. I mean,
they beat them, so I guess they feel like they got a little get back.
They did, and they ruined their season. They totally ruined their season, and then they obviously proceeded to get whooped by Army in the AAC title game. I'm not sure how different that would have been if it was Memphis. We'll never know. I don't know. We'll never find out. But yeah, it's nice. This conference needs something. It needs some juice. So if it's Memphis Tulane is like the rivalry and all that, Summerall's going to be back for another year. I mean, that's better than nothing, I guess. I mean, but we're talking about slim pickings.
Yeah, because it's losing a lot of juice. I mean, especially the quarterback position.
Yeah,
Benson's going to Zook. E.J. Warren's gone. Seth's going to be gone. I mean.
Well, I don't think EJ is some great loss. I know he's the son of Kurt. I mean, I think you're kind of putting Kurt's accomplishments on EJ, and you need to stop that.
Well, he's the name, right? Okay, so whether whatever his projection on the field is not, the name EJ Warner may cause you to tune in a little bit more.
Oh, stop it! He stunk. He was so bad. But I feel you're a little curious. Like, okay,
yeah, right.
But he looks like he bagged groceries. As opposed to Dad. That was the old story. Dad started bagging groceries. EJ looks like he really actually does that, and he plays like it as well. But
how do you feel? I mean, obviously, Chandler Morris is gone, but the name that is, I think, the most interesting to me is DT Sheffield.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, obviously, if he's entering the portal to go to a power conference school, most likely, or whatever. But how much do you think that Memphis, if they were to throw a shot at him, and do you go from one American team to the other?
Well, EJ did. Your hero.
But we just talked about. Well, I say one thing about EJ, and now all of a sudden I'm naming my next child after him or whatever. I mean, my goodness.
Uh-oh. Frank's getting busy. I don't know if anybody caught that.
Oh, Lord.
But no, I mean, you guys were all tweeting about it, so there must be some smoke there. I mean, y'all ain't slick. Well, y'all must have heard something about Sheffield and Memphis because everybody was tweeting about this dude in the portal. Well, because locally.
Because everybody knows that, like, Memphis is losing a lot of offensive firepower. And so, like.
Yeah, but I mean, I think unless so you're saying you have not heard him linked to Memphis?
Outside of, like, speculation. Like, people just.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think that makes a ton of sense.
No, I mean, it doesn't make sense for him. Obviously, I think it came up because it makes a lot of sense for Memphis, but you don't go from, you don't do that.
Who was my guy they got from Missouri who ended up not doing anything? What was my guy's name? The receiver.
You talking about Luther?
No, the receiver that Memphis got. There was a Missouri transfer that had a super fast
name. You're talking about.
What's his name?
Ow!
Oh, come on, dude. What was his name?
Toski.
Yes, Tosky Dove.
Yeah,
Yes.
Tosky Dove. I almost forgot his name for a second.
Yeah, and we never saw that dove fly. I mean, we just didn't.
But when you saw that happen though, like,
oh, it was a big time get.
No, but did you see, like, because when they got him, like, I went and saw what some of the beat writers were saying about him or whatever.
Yeah. And
they seemed kind of mixed on his potential.
Got it. I don't really remember a ton. I just remember him coming in and not really being a factor. But, I mean, that's kind of what you do. If you're a Power 5 guy that's disgruntled with his playing time, you drop down. If you're a Power 5 guy that you feel like has exceeded his ceiling at then you go up to the Power 5 level. So, no, I mean, I would just think more so Memphis gets like the number 3 receiver on a Power 5 team, gives him a lot of money and hopes he can come here. And I mean, I will say this, their wide receiver evaluations have been really freaking good over the years, in my view. Blankhamsey, great job.
Was a hit.
I mean, he was Toledo?
Yeah,
that was an amazing find, so you get him. Obviously, they recruited Rock.
Yeah, he's been in the program. Skates was decent.
Skates was pretty good.
Yeah. He's a showboat now.
Yep. Shout out to the showboats. Amazingly still here. I mean, that's amazing.
Well, they've got him and Jalen Allen.
Yep. So they've done a really good job, I think, overall, finding, recruiting, developing wide receiver talent. And so I do think they'll continue to do that, in this cycle of transfer.
But how much of that was? I mean, I know you've got Antoine Hill coming, so there'll be a lot of people wanting to play with him as he continues to grow when he gets here. But how much of that was the fact? Because I talked to Blankhamsey. He said one of the main things why he wanted to come here is because they had a Seth Hennigan.
Yeah.
Now they don't have a Seth Hennigan. They have a freshman that you don't like. If you're a one-year guy, you don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be unless they bring in a portal guy that you trust. And we'll see
which I think Preston Stone is a guy that makes some sense to me. I haven't heard him linked to Memphis, but he makes sense on like he's it's a guy that probably is not going to have a ton of like huge Power 5 interest, but is good enough at this level. Or a Chandler Morris, like let's see, can they pay a Chandler Morris enough? Because the one thing about Chandler is that he's a small guy, and he's already been at the Power 5 level, and it didn't work very well. So I could see Chandler Morris making the jump from North Texas to Memphis. I mean, it happens in basketball, I mean, it does. PJ Haggerty, I feel like there's another guy. I mean, but over the years, Memphis basketball has picked, Kendrick Davis, the best of the AAC, giving them more money, and they've stayed in the league that they know. So I
think basketball's a little bit different though, because I don't know. I just think the individual development that you feel you can get from a Penny Hardaway in basketball. I think that's comparing apples to oranges a little bit.
And that's a fair assessment. But Memphis has NIL, and depending on their distribution, you may be able to get more here than you would. I mean, it always comes down to money anyway. I mean, all these guys like Tulsa not paying anybody. Tulsa is such a joke, So. I don't know what North Texas NIL situation is, but, you just never know. You never know what these guys are going to get. So,
and I do think that Memphis will have, I mean, we're talking about the guys that they're.
A lot of commotion in here today, sorry. Controversial.
I mean, anytime John Martin is in this, is around, it's always controversial.
People ain't got to be so nervous when I show up. They dropping their purses and stuff.
Is that what it is? So it's, you caused it.
It's just me, guys.
Sorry, it's just Natalie. Just Natalie. Now, only Natalie is nervous. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, this is my train of thought. Oh, the money, the NIL. I mean, they got a lot of guys who are basically going to be off their NIL payroll.
Yeah.
And so you do have a lot of money to throw out there.
Exactly right. I mean, I'm assuming you had to pay a lot to Mario Anderson. I'm assuming you had to pay a lot, obviously, to Seth Hennigan, to Rock Taylor, to keep these guys. So they will have.
The price tag's going to go up on Chandler.
Sure, as it should. As it should. But that's the kind of guy, bull case on a freshman quarterback, absolute best case scenario, maybe one of the only scenarios would be like Sam Levitt at Arizona State, right? But he even had a year in that program, before he got the job. He's a freshman, but he's a redshirt freshman basically. So the number of true freshman quarterbacks out there that are starting and leading teams to success, I don't really think there are any. Even as good as Antoine Hill might be, it's a lot to ask to give him the job,
because even Seth's freshman year, it's not like Memphis won 9 or 10 games.
Exactly, and I think the temperature of the fan base right now is very instructive into that decision making. I mean, Silverfield just got the job essentially, when Hennigan, and that was not the plan. The plan was not to give Hennigan the job. Gunnell got hurt. Then they put him in. They're like, oh damn, like he actually has a little juice here. Gunnell's still hurt. He's the man for the job, and it just worked out that way.
And they'll do that again.
Oh, sure.
They'll go get a guy.
Yeah, you'll have to get a guy, and I would get a guy expecting him to start, just like they did with Gunnell.
Yeah.
If he gets beat in, training camp, I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing. But I would at least, you gotta bring in a real credible quarterback before you go into it with just saying, hey, this guy is big and strong. He's our quarterback in 2025. I just think that's a mistake.
Now, I know how much you love talking about Seth Hennigan, so going to the Frisco Bowl.
You want me to give you a tribute for Seth?
This is his last, hurrah, and basically near his backyard.
Yeah.
How much do you think that play a factor for fans in terms of travel?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think a lot of fans will go to this one.
I'm talking about in terms of Texas fans.
Well, yeah.
Do you think that Texas will get some more?
I don't know. I mean, it's like his neighborhood, his elementary school. I mean, that's why they wanted to do it down there. I will say this. I thought his numbers weren't the best that he's ever had in that Tulane game, but I thought just the way he played, the way he, engineered the offense in that game against Tulane, I thought it was the best we've ever seen out of him. Again, numbers won't match that. He's had big games where he's thrown for 300, 400 yards. But I just thought, again, first drive, boom, deep shot to Rock Taylor, right? And he was just calm as always, collected as always. He just made some really nice throws, I thought, against a good Tulane team, or we thought was a good Tulane team. And I would expect that. I mean, I think he's going to probably have 400 yards against this West Virginia team.
Yeah, it's going to be
my guess.
It's going to be.
So he'll go out with a bang. I mean, again, I don't think Seth is I don't think Seth is a bad quarterback. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I think if anything, he was probably a little let down by the play calling over the years.
And so the John Martin spread, because I know we talked a little bit off air on some places, it opened Memphis a 4.5 point underdog or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it quickly moved to Memphis being the favorite. Where would you, if you were the Vegas bookkeeper, where would you put the line?
I think I'd probably have Memphis. I thought West Virginia would have a few more opt-outs than they ultimately have. Let's see.
Well, we don't. Yeah. Right.
There's still a week, right? Basically left to go. I would probably set it right now at Memphis -6.5. That's just
touchdown is much.
Yeah, just because the motivational angle is just so tilted in terms of Memphis, in favor of Memphis. Seth's back home. Last game for so many different guys, like we talked about, and it is the last game I think for the West Virginia quarterback as well. So there is that, but I don't think they're checked in the same way that Memphis is, would be my guess.
And just to throw some stat numbers out there, Seth is 2 touchdowns shy of the AAC touchdown record. So we'll see.
They know that. They gonna run it up if they can.
I wouldn't be surprised. First drive, you get a couple deep shots and maybe a red zone pass to Anthony Landfair.
Exactly.
Cramsey is
what are
big.
You in the meeting room or something, man? I mean, you calling it out?
Nah. I'm just saying. Cramsey was big on Landfair, and he was right. I mean, Landfair had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
Or pretty good season.
Yeah. No, I think it'll be a showcase. That's kind of just how I see it going down. I mean, Memphis. I'll say Memphis 30-34, West Virginia 21.
And then before we wrap this up and head to basketball, what did you think? And when we talked about it a little bit, Jordan Hankins' first year, DC.
Thought there were some high moments. I thought there were some high moments for him. Certainly the Florida State game comes to mind, but and unfortunately, that passing game was as anemic as we saw in college football in all of 2024. So it aged like a banana, like me. I'm aging like a banana. But I just think there have been spots where the defense stepped up, no question about that. Tulane was one of them. They forced some turnovers. I mean, they were better. The bar was on the floor. The bar was on the absolute floor. So it's hard for me to really know. I mean, it was better, but I don't know exactly what that means.
But heading into the season, we did just say it needed to be better. It didn't need to be the best defense in the country.
He did what he was supposed to do. It wasn't, I don't think he exceeded expectations,
but
I don't think he fell short. Right. I think he met the expectation, which is fine. If I send you to school and you tell me I'm going to get a B on the test and you come home and you get a B on the test, okay, you got to be on the test. I'm not like, you're not getting a toy, but I'm not going to ground you.
Right. So, it is what it is. Well, we'll see what expectations are in year 2. And speaking of expectations and all that, I know you and Parth want to talk about the up and down expectations of Memphis basketball. So I'll go ahead and kick it to you and Parth and let y'all do that.
All right, Frank, thanks a lot. Appreciate you passing it off. We're going to talk some Tigers hoops now, obviously with John Martin. John, 2 games, just 2 games, but definitely some shades of last season happening, right? Within those 2 games against Louisiana Tech, where Memphis won by 10 points, needed a late rally in the final 7 or 8 minutes there to put that thing away. And then, it was a few days later, Sunday, the Tigers dropped one to Arkansas State in a game that was a blowout, right? Like it was a rout.
Yeah.
There's no other way to say it. Memphis lost 85-72. How do you put all this into context of who this team is, what this team can become, and does this change your what seemed to be rising optimism surrounding this team after they arrived back from Maui, where they went 2-1, beat number 2 UConn, then number 2 UConn, and beat Michigan State?
Yeah, I mean, I think undeniably it complicates it.
Yeah.
It just does. I mean, I'm not saying that the season is over by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not saying that it's even necessarily time to panic, but it's just, it becomes harder to sort of make sense of who this team is. The larger sample size suggests that they are more good than not, right? They beat Missouri, which continues to look like a good win, much better than I thought it would be at the time. I'll say that.
Yeah, Mizzou obviously beat Kansas the other night.
Yeah. So that win's aged well. San Francisco, UConn bounced back, and they're, back. They're holding on in the top 25. They beat Texas at Texas. They beat Baylor. Michigan State beat Nebraska by about 40. So, I think that's the great thing that's working for you right now, is the wins that you have banked are, unlike last season, seemingly going to hold up over the course of the season. I think by this time last year, we knew Michigan and Arkansas were not who we thought they were, right?
People still had hope. It was looking shaky for both those teams.
But you just knew, all right, we're probably not going to be able to count on Arkansas and Michigan.
Don't pencil those in.
Yeah,
no,
and Arkansas was disastrous. Michigan obviously fired Juwan Howard. It was all a total mess. That will not happen with the wins they've got, it feels like. I mean, I can't say that Missouri's going to go on to be this great team because the SEC is tough, but I do feel very confident that UConn and Michigan State, at the very least, will be very good wins for you come March. So it just complicates it, right, Parth? It was 2 straight games. Louisiana Tech, you were dilly-dallying, pulled away late. Arkansas State, never in the game really at all. Made 1 second-half run and cut it to 7, and that was promptly it. So, no, I mean, I still think that, and fully expect over the next 4 games that they will look better because that's just what Penny Hardaway teams tend to do. They take the big games very seriously, and they tend to overlook the small ones. And I think they got caught, and it's just punitive because people really wanted to avoid last season's debacle.
And those feelings and all of that.
And they all just rushed back in when you lost to Arkansas State that way.
Yeah, it's tough. So I guess let me ask you this. There's I'd say a chunk of the fan base certainly that is saying that folks are overreacting. The sky is not falling. And they're right. The sky is not falling. I wrote about this in my Tigers Insider yesterday about how even though there was this crisis-like feeling, right, after this game in which you lose to, let's face it, little brother Arkansas State, from the Sun Belt and get blown out of your own building. But in terms of your NCAA tournament resume, if you're Memphis, it did leave a dent, but it didn't leave, it didn't destroy it, right? It didn't tear your resume apart. ESPN's got the Tigers as a 6 seed in their bracketology. David Oman of Bracketville still has them as a 4, which I thought was a little high, probably a little generous. But I think the concern is not about what this one loss does. The concern is if you can get blown out of your home gym by Arkansas State, at one point trailing by 17? Dude, you can lose to a lot of those AAC teams if that team comes to play from January 2nd through March, whatever. That's the concern.
It's the implication.
Exactly.
Right. And that's exactly right. I mean, what are they, 113, 110 in the net?
Shot up. Arkansas State did.
But, I mean, that's all you're going to see in the AAC is those
113 in the net, Arkansas State.
Yeah, you're going to see those like FAU and North Texas and UABs and all those teams live there, right? They that's why I said I would not have played the game. People are mad at me about it. Arkansas State fans are like, take your ball and go home.
They were your mentions?
Yeah, I mean, all 6 of them. But I didn't know they had internet in Jonesboro.
Jeez.
Did you guys know that?
I've never been to Jonesboro, but
it must be a recent development. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, why would you play that team? Because
you have to.
Well, you don't have to.
If you're Penny Hardaway in Memphis, you have to.
Well, here's the thing. They're a sub 100 team, right? They're a sub 100 team, but they're preseason conference champs. That's not going to help you even if you beat them, it's not going to help you. I mean, because let's just say you're going to be an 8-point favorite, a 9-point favorite, a 10-point favorite. They beat Louisiana Tech by 10, and they dropped the spot at KenPom.
Deservedly so.
But I'm saying,
if you watch that game, good.
That's a hell of a thing to do, to beat a team by double digits. Yes, underperform.
Yeah.
But drop. So my contention is, forget this whole sub 100 preseason conference champion thing you try with Ohio, with Louisiana Tech, with Arkansas State. Do what UConn did. Sacred Heart, New Hampshire, East Texas A&M, and beat the dog snot out of those teams.
UConn's got the Big East, though.
They do.
When that calendar flips to 2025, they got the Big East.
Memphis' non-conference schedule outside of those games, outside of these 3 games, was still formidable enough to where they would be just fine. And they would be better off in the net than they are right now because A, they lost, right? And B, they're not creating the margin that they need to create against these good teams. They're good, relatively, right? If you're going to play a bye game,
for sure,
these are the best teams you could play in a bye game. So I contend, stop with this best of the best in the bye games and get me a UT Martin and beat them by 40 and send their ass on their way and move up 4 spots in the net when you win by 40.
Man, the best answer is just
win.
Be who you are
that.
every night, right?
Yes. I mean, yes. But
if you don't have the talent, that's one thing. If you don't have the personnel, but they've got the talent, they've got the personnel, they've shown glimpses.
But I have to assume
us that they have the pieces.
I have to assume that they're not going to be that
because it's been kind of a theme.
There's going to be, some schizophrenia, so to speak.
No doubt. And now, you got to turn around and people keep talking about 4 big opportunities, but this could go one of 2 ways, right? Either. And we've seen this from Penny Hardaway teams, to his credit, when their backs are against the wall.
Yep.
When Penny paints it as if it's Memphis versus everybody, the media, this, whatever it may be, his teams come to play in this underdog role, spoiler role, whatever you want to call it. So they'll go to Little John Coliseum and play 16th ranked Clemson. I wouldn't be surprised if they came out and punched first, right? Like, it wouldn't shock me at all.
Nope.
But what also could happen, and I don't think it will, but what could happen is, you go to Clemson, you don't bring your own juice and you're overmatched, you get blown out, and then things start to spiral, right? Because you had a bad game against Louisiana Tech, you drop one against Arkansas State, you got another missed opportunity, and things can just snowball, especially when you've got 2 more big ones back in Memphis to end December against Mississippi State and Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely right. There's a possibility of a crash out. Just as much as there's a possibility of a recovery. Yeah. I mean, I think that you could sort of flip a coin. Now, I will say this. I do believe that Penny will have those guys prepared to play Clemson. I do. I think they'll be prepared. I think they'll look like they belong. I don't know that they'll win. They'll be competitive. And
I think it'll be a competitive game, yeah.
I mean, Penny's track record with this kind of stuff is documented. He is going to be in the game, and when he's an 8, 9, 10-point underdog, he shows up. He gets his team. It's where he's at his absolute best. It's weird, but it's where he's at his best. whether it was Gonzaga, whether it's Houston, whether it's, UConn, I mean, the man has just proven over the years that, Tennessee at Tennessee, we can go through all the games. The man is damn near at his best when he's a big underdog at that. So I'm really not as worried about these next 4, but I continue to be worried about what happens after the calendar turns to 2025.
Yep.
And into the AAC wilderness we go. Yes, we have the best campsite tools. We have the best tent and the best flashlight and the best batteries and all.
Yep.
But for whatever reason, when these AAC animals come out of the woods, the bears and the little ligers and all the other random things you see, they tend to get the best of Memphis. And I think that's, and I like to keep my my audience on their toes with the analogies. You know what I'm saying?
I've never seen a liger.
Yeah, it's a combination of a lion.
I understand what it is.
And that's what the AAC is, right? It's a bastardized version of, basketball. It's what it is. I mean, you know how bad it is. We don't have to pretend.
It's rough out there.
So the trek through the wilderness begins at the turn of the calendar, and that's when my worry and anxiety will pick up. It ain't going to be over the next 2-3 weeks.
No doubt. And obviously, this goes without saying, but you can buy yourself more room for those quote-unquote bad losses in the AAC by going 3-1. Shoot, if you go 4-0, then you've recovered completely from this Arkansas State debacle, right?
Yeah,
completely. But there's a very real what's the most likely outcome? 2-2?
I think 2-2 or 1-3.
1-3 would not be good. I don't want to call it a disaster, but it would not be.
It would be underperform.
It'd be underperforming, and then you'd have to go. I don't know, 16-2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think this team's capable of going 16-2? I don't know. Through the AAC, obviously.
It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe. It feels like, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, it feels like they're 14-4.
Which is still unfortunate, right? Because if you look at the team that entered Lahaina Civic Center in Maui, that team could go 16-2. That team doesn't show up every night.
No, so I got to split the difference. And just feel like I'm going to get a couple of nights where that team doesn't show up. Then I got to give maybe a game or two where, Memphis just gets unlucky at the buzzer or something like that. So I think you probably end up 14-4, 15-3 would be my guess.
Now, we talked about Clemson, obviously, and, like you said, Penny's had his guys look the part in these games. Memphis has always been competitive in these kind of spotlight moments, back against the wall, big underdog. But just kind of X's and O's wise, this is a tough matchup, man.
Yeah.
Like, Clemson does everything well that Memphis struggles to contain, if that makes sense, right? Like,
absolutely.
Clemson's a top 50 3-point shooting team. They shoot 38.2% from three. They're one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the nation. Freaking Ian Shefflin had 20 boards against Kentucky,
Yep.
So from that perspective, is it reasonable to expect that the flaws that have emerged these past 2 games will suddenly be corrected or at least masked in this kind of game?
I mean, not really logical, but I don't really think logic is
applies
how this
to Memphis
team
Tigers basketball.
operates.
No.
Yeah, I think you just get an out-of-body experience, from,
Freaking Tyrese Hunter had one in Hawaii.
So anytime you're live, right? You're just live. But they're going to have a great game from Musa, it feels like, in this one, or Dane, one of the two, because Shefflin is going to be an absolute monster on the interior. So I feel like that's the biggest thing is Memphis will defend 3 better because it's the priority. It's obviously after that loss, it's going to be the thing. But it's all right, is that going to leave you susceptible to Shefflin, who's been there for forever, was part of that Elite 8 team last year.
And that's the tough part with Clemson.
Oh.
They got the blanket on the guy's name, big man from Victor Locken.
Yeah,
he used
Locken
to play at Cincinnati. Yeah.
Their interior is really good.
Yeah, and Locken's really given Memphis problems before, in those matchups when he was at Cincinnati. So
it's not even, it's almost like there's really no drop off. Clemson's guards, Clemson's bigs, they're a damn good team. So it's going to take all of Memphis's best punch to get that done.
And when you're talking about 2-2 being the most likely scenario, what is that? That means, I'm guessing loss at Clemson, beating Virginia on the road.
And splitting.
And then you split the 2 against your regional rivals.
I like
here
Memphis's chances better, I think, against Mississippi State than I do Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is a tougher matchup for them. They lost to them last year. Mississippi State is good, but I actually think it's kind of strength on strength with guards. I like
just
Memphis.
elite guard play. Yeah.
Ole Miss is just a really tough team, and they've got some really nice wins. They beat BYU on a neutral. I thought that was a really impressive win. So, and Chris Beard's just a good coach. So, it's a tough stretch, but you do have an opportunity to make up the loss and cleanse the palate. So, I guess that's some good news.
No doubt. And it sounds like you're saying, like, no matter, I guess, what happens, people keep talking about this pivotal stretch, and it is a pivotal stretch, but no matter what happens, these next 4, if you're a Tigers fan, you're holding your breath till what, February? Right? Like mid-February?
Yeah.
After
first week of March.
That's tough, man. It's a tough existence.
That's how bad the league is, man. I mean,
well, no, not about the league. I'm talking about kind of the Jekyll and Hyde nature of this basketball team,
but
right?
I think that's why, though. It's you would like to be able to believe that a team that beats UConn and beats Michigan State and beats Missouri and in this scenario beats Virginia, beats the American. But we know that they won't. And so, I mean, maybe they do, and they surprise us all, and they, find a different gear, but I just think it's hard to do that across road trips and, all the other things you have to navigate, you got to be completely at 100% locked in all the time, to avoid it. And Memphis has not done that, so far.
No doubt. Tyrese Hunter, we talked about him earlier, but obviously kind of a out-of-body experience, to use your terminology, in Maui, where he was on a crazy heater. Just crazy. Came back to earth, obviously, against Arkansas State. 4 points, 1 of 7. That's tough. I think, when you're so reliant on PJ Haggerty and Tyrese Hunter, as skilled and as talented as they are, people have called them one of the top 10 backcourts in the country, and I agree with that. But if that's your foundation, neither of those guys can put up a stinker.
Exactly. Memphis
against competent teams.
Memphis, because they can't find that scoring anywhere else. So I think that's the issue. When Tyrese Hunter struggles, and God forbid PJ Haggerty, right? If PJ Haggerty has a game where he doesn't get 18, 20 points, Memphis is going to have a tough go. So, I just think, they're the weather vanes for this team. And if either one of them has drop off, then it's going to be a struggle for them.
I mean, it's almost unfair to expect both those guys to play at that Hawaii level for the rest of the year.
It is, but
who's going to step up? Who are some candidates, right, for that third, fourth?
I think Dane has shown that.
Colby Rogers, obviously.
Colby Rogers, obviously, with the shooting. So, but that's the problem, is that you've recruited a very thin roster, and it works when it works. But, if a guy has an off night, there's just not as many options to pick up that slack, and so I don't think the list of guys, Jourdain's not going to turn into a 17-point guy. Obviously you're not getting any offense from Baraka. Or Musa as of late for that matter. There's only really 2 guys that you're talking about that can step up and fill that scoring production.
Yeah, no, and that's tough. And the 3-point shooting obviously is where Colby Rogers in particular gets his scoring from. It's crazy to think that the first 8 games of a season, I don't want to call it a fluke, but could be an anomaly, because that's a large sample size for a team to be shooting 40-something%.
Yes.
But, man, the Tigers, even in that department, have come down, right? They've kind of come down to earth there, too, with their struggles from the perimeter against Arkansas State. So I guess we have to, that remains to be seen as well, whether...
Yeah, which version of Memphis which are they? Are they the good shooting team, or are they this team we saw in the last 2-3 games? And I think, yes, the next 4, we'll know the story by the end of the non-conference slate.
No doubt. Well, obviously we're recording this on a Wednesday afternoon. Penny Hardaway, Tyrese Hunter, and Baraka Okogie, I believe, are set to speak to us tomorrow, Thursday. So we'll hopefully hear some updates from them on how the week's gone. And we will check back in with you guys. I guess when we do that, Memphis will have gone through Clemson and Virginia, and we'll have a better idea of, where things stand for the Tigers. But for this week, that's all we've got. Appreciate everybody listening. Check out our work at dailymemphian.com. You can read John, read Frank, read myself, and we'll catch y'all next week.